Good evening, everybody. I'm Shay Ali here with you on Inspired Online. And this evening, I have the great honor, pleasure, delight to welcome the beautiful Cooper Shaw, all the way from California, that I'm missing so much right now. Now, I'm really excited to have Cooper on today because she's one of these people that just makes lockdown fun. And don't we know that we all need some of that, right? So what does she do? She does acting, she does directing, she does producing. She puts together those live shows that so missing right here in England right now. She's the star of the world of improv and teaches at one of the #1 improv schools in the world, Second City, coaching in accents and dialects. And very excitingly, she has just won Best Actress at the Beaufort Film Festival for a recent short, Hallways and Doors, as well as producing, writing, directing another short that will be on with us very, very soon. So very excited to have you, Cooper. Welcome to Inspired.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. This is a delight that you asked for me to come on. So thank you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm going to start with our regular inspired question, which is, if you had to share your wisdom with the world in a nutshell, what would you say?
Ooh. I knew, like, I had this in my head that I knew you were going to ask this, and I had a thing prepared. And now the first thing that popped into my head was something that my dad used to say on a fairly regular basis. His tagline was always remember to be silly.
Oh, I love it.
That was his thing. So I kind of try to carry that with me a lot, is like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's in a nutshell.
Wonderful. Well, that's how you've managed to make lockdown fun then. It's remembering to be silly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, and so I mean, this is such a gift that you were taught that when you were very young. How did this transpire into becoming your career? How did you then use that?
Yeah, it's this kind of like circuitous route, I guess. I'm not sure how, if trying to find the most direct route to answering the question, and my brain is going in so many different directions.
That's all right.
So, how did it transpire to be? So it still just seems really mind-blowing to me that this is what I'm doing for my career. I took my very first acting / drama class when I was in 8th grade and absolutely hated it.
Oh, well, you'd never imagine that now.
I mean, like, I could see that it had the potential to be fun for some people, but like, I was mortified, I was embarrassed, I had all sorts of like just social anxiety out the wazoo from whatever. And so I vowed like never to do it again. After I took that one class in 8th grade, I was like, I'm never doing this again. Never, 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 never. And so never lasted until my junior year of high school.
Okay.
Not very long at all.
There's 8th
And
grade.
then
Wow.
what's that?
There's 8th grade vows.
I know those 8th grade vows that we all have made, I'm sure. And then my junior year of high school rolled around and I had a hole to fill in my schedule.
Wow.
And it was either take shop or take a theater class.
Okay.
And I'm afraid of power tools still to this day.
Okay.
So I opted to take theater. I was like, let's see, either run the risk of losing a limb or take acting. So I opted for the theater class. And I feel like was kind of like the beginning of it. Was I got into that class, and just the teacher there, it just made it so fun and so accessible. And just all of a sudden I felt like, I don't know, it just felt like I had arrived where I was supposed to be.
Mm.
And it kind of just grew from there.
That's
And
beautiful.
that was Kurt Nadelceder, if you're around and watching. I give you full credit for everything that my life has now become. Yeah, and like all of those people along the way that just were so encouraging, and so even if they didn't realize how encouraging they were being, it just is like there's these people stick in your brain about those sort of, I don't know, what are they, what is the term that I'm looking for? Those like signpost people where you're like, oh yes, this person pointed me in that direction, and this person pointed me in that direction, and there's a lot of people along the way who have had that influence. So
That's beautiful.
yeah.
And I think there's so much wisdom we can pick up from what you've already said. I mean, for a start, I love that, you celebrate those signpost people along the way, because sometimes you might do something and then never hear from that person again. And
Yeah.
you reminded me of there's a lady that won World's Best Teacher a few years ago, and we were at school together. And when they interviewed her for BBC, they pulled out my old music teacher, who was still alive. He's probably like 90 now.
Wow.
It was just, that moved his soul. And so I think it's so important that we celebrate people along the way. And then the flip side of that is, why don't you celebrate people that you come across? So, for Kurt, for you, or the music teacher who was called Mr. Aldersey, in my case,
Mm.
you know, the fact that you're celebrating people and that you can impact their life like that. So when you have that opportunity, take it.
Yeah, totally.
Really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
So where do we go next from here? How did you then go from that, where you found that piece of joy?
Yeah.
In fact, let's go with this question, because it's a big question for a lot of people. You said you took that class and you knew, like, this was your path. You'd kind of
Yeah.
arrived. What does that
Well,
even feel like?
well, it was really so many different layers of that to unpack. I was really painfully shy in school, in elementary school, junior high, into high school. I was really very shy, and I mean now I have the term introverted, which I do consider myself to be still incredibly introverted. But when I was in school, it was kind of a little bit more debilitating.
Hmm.
It was like there was a certain group of people that I felt really comfortable with, and those people really knew who I was. But other than that, I was kind of like, I got made fun of a lot. I got picked on a lot. I kind of like, yeah, I was a little bit on the outskirts of
Right.
everything. So somehow getting into that theater class and getting involved in improv, because at my high school at the time, had such an amazing theater department where the prerequisite before you could take any of the other acting classes was taking an improv class.
Nice.
Like you had to take it, so they had improv, which you had to take first, and then you could go into the acting classes. And there was something about just being in the improv class, because I had to take that first, that made me realize, wait a minute, I can make people laugh and I'm in charge of when that happens.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, so like for this little kid who kind of like got picked on and made fun of, it sort of was a very empowering kind of thing for me, where it felt like, oh no, I'm in charge of how people, I don't know, receive what I do. And it was kind of, even though I was doing it accidentally and people were laughing, but I was getting up on stage and doing it accidentally and people were laughing. So it was like, that was just, it was a really empowering thing. And then, so to fast forward a little bit, then when I was considering college and what was I going to study at university, it was my high school guidance counselor who actually was the one who decided for me that I was going to study theater, because
Wow. Nice.
I had no clue. I was like, I don't know, I'm really good at, and I started listing all the classes I was getting really good grades in.
Mm.
I was like, I'm really good in my English class. He's like, okay. but what do you really like? I was like, I don't know. I'm doing really well in math. And I kept listing all these things that like I thought, oh, I'm doing really well in these classes, and maybe that's what I should study.
Mm.
And he asked the question like 5 different times, kept asking the same question. Yes, but what do you really like? I was like, well, I'm really good in French. Yes, but what do you really like? And then finally I was like, well, I really like my acting class. He's like, done. That's what you're studying.
That's what you
So
do. And it's actually such a powerful question. It's one that I even ask my clients. Well, it's slightly different iteration. I usually go, what do you want? you know.
yeah, yeah.
And so I think so many people in life don't even ask that, what do you like? You get just so stuck in the rut of, you know, I'm doing maths, I'm doing English, or, at that age. or,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
lovely to just come back to center and discover what that is for you, and what
Right.
you soul. Um, and I want to speak to, maybe our younger selves or the younger people watching today.
Yeah.
If you had to give advice to that shy kid that you used to be, and I totally resonate with that because that was exactly me also,
Mhm.
when I was that kind of age. What
Mhm.
say to anyone who's feeling in that place now? Or what would you say if little Cooper was sitting in front of you and you had to give her a piece of advice now?
Oh, wow. I would say uh, trust your gut, trust your heart, and you're awesome, and you'll find your people.
But, and you will. I think that's always
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Um,
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we met in I came and took your accents and dialects course, and I think
Yeah.
it's probably a shock to your system with with a different accent from everyone else that you teach. but
It was awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. I was slightly scared today. You're going to say, okay, Shay, just for fun, why don't you do this, in your neutral American, and I'll put on my English.
Oh, good. No, I was nervous you were going to say that. I was like, I just don't want. That's so funny. We were both nervous about the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
So I won't make you do that. But
Yeah,
I
thank
mean,
you.
it's such a fun subject to do, and I think all the students that you have just really appreciate that space to play with that and celebrate the diversity that we are. Um,
Yeah.
awesome too.
Yeah.
And how did you get into that as one of your specialties?
Ooh. So again, that's kind of a circuitous sort of thing. I've always played around with accents and dialects and character voices since I was a wee little thing, which
Oh,
I guess is part of what my dad used to say is always remember to be silly. I just now made that connection. Thank you for asking this question. Um,
pleasure.
yeah, yeah, there you go. So I've always played around with them since I was a little kid. And then once I started majoring in theater and then went on for my master's in acting and all of that, um, we started working with the International Phonetic Alphabet and actually officially taking dialect classes in those studies. And that was when I realized, oh, wait, this is a thing that can actually be standardized and then retaught to people.
Yeah.
And just kind of it just kind of took to it fairly naturally. It felt like fun, and also I was really good at it, and it just made sense, and it sort of turned into like um I like to call it being a little bit of a almost like a linguistic detective, but I also use a math analogy a lot when I talk about it because it's like once you figure out what x equals, then it's fun to just kind of find other places to plunk that in. Like, oh, well, this sound exists here and it also exists here and it also exists here. And I just started having a lot of fun with it. And then when I moved to Los Angeles,
Mm.
I uh, was having a conversation with the folks at Second City who asked if I would be interested in teaching a dialects and character voices class, because they saw that I had it on my acting resume under my special skills was all these different accents. And so that was sort of how it happened. Was they said, would you put together a course proposal? And I said, sure. And so I put together a course proposal, and I called my dialect coach in New York, Patricia Fletcher, who is absolutely amazing, and another one of those signpost people that, yeah. So like every time I've gotten to these sort of crossroads or other sorts of paths that are possible to go down, I reach out to these people. And so I called Patricia and I was like, hey, do you think this is something that I could do? Like, she's like, yeah, you can do this and do it. I'm like, great. So, and then from once I started teaching the classes, then it just kind of kept growing and blossoming from there. So,
so
yeah.
unpicking that, I mean, I think that's the first time I've heard that term X equals sound fun.
Right.
As someone that took A-level maths, which is a term that makes sense in England,
Uh-huh.
that
Uh-huh.
but so let's ask you this: what's your
Yeah.
accent to do? I know they're all like your children, probably, and you love them all, but
I do love them all. I love them all equally, but different. I think probably, oh my gosh, there's so many, Shay. I don't even know. And I'm like, I'm hesitating because I'm like, God, you're gonna make me do them now if I tell you what they are.
What do you want to give
I
us?
really enjoy doing the English accent. I really enjoy doing the Scottish accent. I really enjoy the French accent. Vaguely Eastern European is a sort of nice, sort of like standby that I slip into sometimes without even meaning to. Yeah.
Sounds good. And if you'd like to give us a blast, you are more than welcome to do so, but you do not have to.
Well, no, I can give you a little bit of blast of the Eastern European that sort of happens to come out sometimes. So
That was
that there you go. Yeah.
And you know, how have people used these classes going forward? Because I mean, it's grown, it's become a very popular class. You know, and
Yeah.
the classes are sold out. You know, so they can be quite tricky to get onto. Yeah, what do people do with it?
Oh, so many different things. I have people who have been using it for sketch comedy, for character development. Some of them have been using it for improv, just to be able to have different vocal qualities that they can do and at the drop of a hat. I've had a lot of actors who are using it to just fine tune accents that they're already putting on their resumes. I've had people developing solo shows who are using the class to further develop those characters in those solo shows. I've had people in the class who are working through some other speech issues that they have that somebody had said to them, you should take a class that's fun, that's just gonna still help you work on these things that you want to work on, and also just have fun doing it. So yeah, just for various reasons. It's just fascinating, the wide variety of people that are drawn to it. Yeah.
And I think that's really beautiful. You know, it must be so satisfying when, I don't know, people with a speech condition come and, you know, maybe even heal it because they're having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just the light bulb moments that everybody has, like, I didn't realize that that my instrument worked that way, or I didn't realize that, because I talk also a lot about breath and being connected to your breath and how that influences vocal use as well. And just a lot of people have pretty profound moments in doing the warm-ups sometimes, even where they're like, oh, I didn't realize that dropping my breath down that low would have that impact. And like, people have sent me emails afterwards, like I had a total breakthrough moment just because we did whatever the exercise was. And those things mean just a lot to me too. So yeah.
Are you willing to share any exercises that people can do at home? And I know one of the things, like even my mum, for example, is not talking as much as she would if we were, just normally being able to go outside. And,
Mhm.
for me, I used to do singing lessons. So at one point I would be putting on gigs and things like that. I miss
Yeah,
practice because we're not doing that anymore.
sure.
Um, but how can we preserve our instrument? Are there any favorite exercises that you can share with us today?
Yeah, favorite exercises that I have a lot to do with uh, finding your, as I'm realizing my spine is so out of alignment right now. Finding your spinal alignment is a good place to start. So that um yeah, I mean, I always start with again, like finding my center, finding my spinal alignment, and then dropping my breath down into my belly rib cage area and just checking in with tension, because there's just a lot happening in the world right now. Um, so I think it's really easy to get overwhelmed and to catch ourselves with tension that's building up in shoulders and neck, and then that influences also where your breath is landing. So breathing exercises have been sort of my saving grace through a lot of this. Um and then just this is where it's going to sound really silly, but
That's all right. Love silly.
just always remember to be silly, right?
Yeah.
Just like a ridiculous full body shakeout and just letting out whatever ridiculous sound wants to come out of your mouth, and just like just like just
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's if you live on your own, there's no one to even watch you right now.
there's no one to watch you, unless of course you've adopted a cat who will watch you and think that, oh my goodness, who am I living with right now?
Your cat will love you anyway. That's
I
okay.
know she does. She's a love. It's true.
And you must get so many stories from people. I know you have lots of your own as well. Do you have a favorite story that you'd like to share?
Story. Oh my god. Yeah. Story. What story? How stories? Which stories?
I don't know, accent world, class world. Do you have a favorite
Accent.
story? Like a success story or a funny story?
Um. Huh. Yeah. Well, the one that just popped into my head.
Is the perfect one.
It was a time that I got cast in a show that I thought for sure there was no way I was gonna get. Um, because I completely embarrassed myself in the audition. Um, I can tell that story. I can tell a super embarrassing Cooper story. Um,
Yeah.
so I was living in New York at the time, and I had just was going on auditions, pinging around the city from one end of the city to the other, going on auditions. This one particular day, I was at this one building, and a friend of mine from grad school walked in. Sarah Wilson. This is Sarah Wilson's story. So Sarah Wilson walked in to that building and saw me and went, "Oh my gosh, there's an audition across town. They're looking for people who do improv. You should go."
Okay.
And I was like, great, I do improv. I'll go to this audition. So I grabbed my bags and got on the subway and headed across town to go to this other audition. And because of the nature of like the audition I'd just been on, I still had all this other stuff with me. So I go in and I put my name on the list. And then I go to the water fountain. I push the button for the water fountain and I'm leaning over and I like misjudged the trajectory of the water. And the water goes up my nose and up my face and I'm soaking wet and then it goes all the way down and I'm like coughing and I'm hacking. I'm trying to get the water out because I've just inhaled all of this.
Oh no.
And I'm wiping myself off and then I hear them call my name. I hear this voice, Cooper Shaw. And I'm like, and I slowly turn around and I look at the woman and I've got all this water dripping down. I'm like, yeah, I'm right here. She goes, we're ready for you. I'm like, great. Of course you are. So I grab my stuff. No, I didn't even grab my stuff. I left my stuff in the hallway. And then I go to follow her into the room and I didn't realize there was a step up at the threshold of the door.
This just gets better and better.
Doesn't it? So like my foot catches the step and I go tripping into the room, like trying to catch my steps and my feet are going tunk, 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 and I'm like stop about halfway into the room. And I slow motion turn and look and there's like 5 people sitting behind the table and they're all just sitting there looking like,
oh no.
and I was like, hi, how's everyone doing? And I had water and I just tripped and I'm soaking wet. And the one person stands up from behind the table and introduces himself and he's the director. He's like, hi, I'm Tom Flagg. I'm the director. How are you? And he extends his hand to shake my hand. And I realize that my hand is still wet because I've just wiped all this water off. So I'm like wiping my hand off on myself. I'm like, hi, it's very nice to meet you. He's like, great. And what's that?
That's attractive.
Totally attractive, right? I'm like, hi, it's nice to meet you. And then he's like, great. So what we'd like to hear you sing. What do you have to sing for us? And I went, singing. Right. And then I turned and looked behind me and then I saw the piano.
Lovely.
I hadn't seen before. With the accompanist sitting behind it, who I hadn't seen before, who also happened to be an instructor at my graduate school.
Oh, lovely.
So I turn and I look at him and I was like, hello. And then they're like, what do you want to sing for us? I'm like, yeah, let me go get my sheet music. I'll be right back. So I had to run back out of the room to grab my stuff. I go to grab my sheet music. I come back in, whatever. So I did, long story short, then I sang the song. They gave me an improv scenario. I did it. They then had me do a scripted thing. I did that. I leave the audition and I'm like just out of for whatever and giggles, silliness, whatever. I'm on the subway heading home and I take out my notebook. I take out a pen and I just write, in my head, I'm thinking there's no way I'm going to book this job. But I wrote down like, if they offer it to me, this is how much I would like to make.
Nice.
And then I was like, and I, whatever. But then I put my pen down and I put my notebook back in my bag. I got home and an hour later, my phone rang and they offered me the show.
That's amazing.
And I was like, it's the power of the pen. It's because I wrote it down. And they called anyway. And then the producer told me that they basically had decided they were going to hire me the second that I tripped.
That's great.
They were like, yeah. They were like, from then on, it kind of didn't matter what you did. It was that you tripped into the room. We were like, yes.
We won that one. That I love that you told that, and I love that I asked that, because there's so much in that that we can pick out as well. There's that concept of sometimes we really think we've messed up something in
Yeah.
life, and
Yeah.
sometimes those mistakes are actually our gifts.
Yeah.
So how incredible is that? That moment that you thought, oh, cringe, was the moment they thought, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, you don't know what impact you're going to have on someone else with things that you might not be proud of.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I just Robin's words in my head at the moment, when you schedule it, it's real. So you took that act of writing things down, and
Right.
actually really physically bringing it into being. And how would it be that, more of us just had the confidence, or in your case, maybe the silliness or the playfulness to, all right, let's do it.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow. I haven't thought about that in a long time. Thanks for asking that question too. Yeah.
And I was wondering if you have any words of inspiration for like the creatives out there. My cousin, for example, I had a very long conversation with last night, is a musician. And what I'm hearing a lot is like people can't gig anymore, people aren't really, acting on stages anymore and stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
our industry in that sense is, I mean, it's thrived online a little bit, but as we know it, it's died, and it's left a lot of people feeling very disheartened. And yet,
Yeah.
someone like you is out there having just won Best Actress in a show, which is incredible. So,
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah, that still just like blows my mind. Advice, words. Uh yeah, I mean, so many things, Shay. It's such a great you're asking really great questions. I guess that's why you do this, right? Um uh I mean, it's gonna sound maybe a little not like such profound advice, but follow your inspiration wherever it takes you. You might end up doing things that you didn't think would be a part of your path. Like some, creativity finds an outlet, I guess, is the thing. But it might not be the outlet that you initially thought it would be, but it finds an outlet. So trust it, right? So it might be that you're an actor who isn't acting right now. Pick up a pen or a pencil and see what happens if you turn that creativity to drawing or writing or any of that, because all creativity feeds into itself, I think, would be the
yeah.
thing that I would say.
And how do you get inspired?
How do I get inspired?
How do you get inspired?
So many things. I get inspired by my friends. Um, I get inspired by taking walks and just like different things that you see along the way. Architecture sometimes, or the way a shadow hits a building. It comes from so many different sources, right? I get inspired by the things that I watch, like Netflix stuff, Amazon, all the content that we're consuming in lockdown. That's all really inspiring. Yeah, it comes from so many different places.
It does. And I love the way you watch things as well, because you always ask us at the start of class if you watched anything recently and, noticed
Yeah,
that. So, I'm watching stuff now. I think, well, they speak in an interesting way. Or,
yeah, right.
yeah. So it's like looking, and in the answer that you gave, it's like looking at the world with like your eyes wide open. I mean, for those of you out there, when was the last time you thought, right, I'm going to go for a walk and watch the way the shadow hits the building, or something like that, and just to hear you say, right, you know, those are the types of things that inspire me, and it can be something very small. You know,
Yeah.
really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, and that I think I'm thinking about that, and I'm trying to think where that I have to give credit to my mom for that. Because I think from the time I was a little bitty, like every time we would go somewhere, she would always point things out, and it was always things that I hadn't been looking at previously. Like she would just look and say, "Look at this, look at the trees, or look at the," you know. It was just so, and she's very much kind of inspired the way that I go about, like I said, taking a walk around the block. And I'm like, I don't think I would look at those things if my mom hadn't sort of trained that into me, I guess. Like, yeah.
And I love that this has been about beautiful parental lessons. We've started with your dad, you know, with being,
Yeah.
and your mum with like just appreciating the beauty around you. So I think that's
Yeah.
very, very lovely. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with us today?
Oh, my final thoughts. I'm about to get super cheesy.
Please do. I love it.
Um, just be kind to each other. Everyone's going through a lot. And find moments of joy and make each other laugh and all of that. Kindness and laughter. That's my thing.
It's a
So
good message. It's a really good
yeah.
message. And it's absolutely what you do, I think, in my experience of you, for sure. You know. So
Yeah.
if other people would like to have a bit more fun during lockdown, how can they reach out to you and get in touch?
Oh, you can reach out to me on Facebook. Uh, also, I do have an Instagram. People are welcome to connect with me there. The Cooper Shaw on Instagram. And yeah,
Yeah, and go play,
and go
basically.
play and you know, make each other laugh and you know, all that.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for joining us today at Inspired
Yeah.
Online, and hopefully see you very, very soon.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Shay. This was really a delight. So
Take care. Lots of love.